being no order, please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moment of silence, please. Thank you. Have a seat. Roll call.
Karlovich,
Here.
Reichner,
Here.
Reis,
Here.
Brosious,
Here.
Eister.
Here.
Are there any public comment on agenda items only at this time? Do we have anybody on Zoom or Facebook Live?
I do have 4 people on the Zoom, but no one has indicated to make a comment,
Was there any comments submitted to the office or anything?
not on agenda items.
All right, SEDA-COG, Jamie Shrawder.
Good evening. So I'm here to have you approve updated plans for 5 different things. Every 5 years, your plans for your CDBG program have to be updated. So that's what this is. There is one plan readoption resolution for all of them, and then they all get signed anyway. But you have your anti-displacement plan, your citizen participation plan, complaint procedure, financial management plan, and then the last one is the agent resolution, which says SEDA-COG can prepare all these things on your behalf.
Is there a motion?
Yes, please.
Make that motion. Second. Thank you.
Well,
Reichner,
Yes.
Reis,
yes.
Brosious,
Yes.
Eister,
Yes.
Karlovich.
Yes.
So if you just want to scan those and email them to me tomorrow, I'll have them for the application. Your application for your 2020 funds goes in Wednesday. Has to be in on Wednesday, so that'll be going in.
Thank you, Jamie. You did an excellent job.
Oh, thanks. Happy Halloween, everyone.
All right. A proclamation. Whereas Alzheimer's disease is a degenerative brain disease and the most common form of dementia. And whereas Alzheimer's disease involves parts of the brain that control thought, memory, and language, deterioration of these functions can impair judgment and reasoning, affect behavior and emotions, and impede the ability to complete daily activities or sustain personal care. And whereas more than 5 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's disease, and 1 in 3 seniors will die from it or another form of dementia. And whereas there is no cure for Alzheimer's disease, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the disease is the 6th leading cause of death in the United States of America. And whereas we recognize those battling the disease, those who lost their life, and their families who care for them, while advocating for educational programs, improving support services, and promoting research to find a cause and a cure. And now therefore be it resolved that I, Karlovich, being mayor of the city of Sunbury, county of Northumberland, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, on behalf of the city of Sunbury council members and citizens, do hereby declare the month of November 2020 as Alzheimer's Disease Awareness Month. I'll make this into a form of motion. Do I have a second?
Reis,
Yes.
Brosious,
No.
Eister,
Yes.
Karlovich,
Yes.
Reichner.
Yes.
All right, Councilman Reichner. Okay.
Approval to pay the bills of $78,050.79 from the general fund
Make that motion.
and $396.55 from the liquid fuels. Make a motion for all of it.
Second,
Second.
Brosious,
Yes.
Eister,
Yes.
Karlovich,
Yes.
Reichner,
Yes.
Reis.
Yes.
All right, Solicitor Wiest. Joel,
I'm here. Yep, I'm here.
it's your turn. Property transfer agreement.
Yes, sir. The property transfer agreement is a draft agreement which has been prepared by Attorney Balducci from here in Sunbury on behalf of Glenn Raven. Glen Raven intends, which is actually Sunbury Textile for purposes of this agreement, but they are going to transfer to the city 3 parcels of real property with a total of 36.542 acres, all of which are vacant within the city of Sunbury and Upper Augusta Township. The property is being, I'll call it, donated for no cost to the city. And the agreement basically says that the city will accept the property and as is condition, that there's no purchase price, that we will get possession at the time of settlement, that they will give good and marketable title to the property. There is no existing municipal sewer or water to the property, and the agreement is only between the city of Sunbury and the Sunbury Textile Mill. And that's basically it. It's a very short agreement, but that's what it says. And what we need is an approval from the city to enter into the agreement such that it may be signed and returned to Sunbury Textile so that we can keep the process moving to receive those parcels by deed.
Right, so make a motion to accept the real property transfer agreement.
Who's second, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, I did that, so.
Eister,
Yes.
Karlovich,
Yes.
Reichner,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
and Brosious.
Yes.
There was a press conference Saturday, obviously wanted to say thank you to Raven for their donation and also what they did with Drive donating that portion of the sales. They know that is appreciated and moving forward with economic development in the city.
There's no question, absolutely right, Chris, because of the fact that factory could have sat there for years and years. And I'm not sure what the estimated value of the property was, but giving it to the city was a lot. And the fact that Drive's going to take over and start immediately filling that unit. So once again, thank you to Glen Raven.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, so this is just this has been going on for a while, the Smerlick with the land development. They wrote a letter as attached in there, and they also, there's a proposed agreement to do a 3rd extension for them. This one is a little bit of a longer extension to give them the time needed to get done what they want to get done, what's said in the letter. So unless there's any questions, we'll just make a motion to approve the extension to May of 2021.
I'll second that.
Karlovich,
Yes.
Reichner,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Brosious,
Yes.
Eister.
Yes.
Council meetings. Here is our list of council meetings for the year 2021. Make a motion to accept this list.
Reichner,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Brosious,
Yes.
Eister,
Yes.
Karlovich.
Yes. And I do believe we ensured that it didn't fall on any federal holidays, correct?
May 24th isn't, that's not Memorial Day.
May 31st.
It'll be late this year,
It's the week
late
after.
this the week after.
31st.
Okay. Here is the 2021 holiday schedule for the employees of the city. Make a motion to accept this list for paid holiday vacation.
Was there any holidays added?
Juneteenth.
Pardon?
Yeah, Juneteenth.
Juneteenth.
Juneteenth. I didn't hear it.
Juneteenth. Yeah, I think we did that back in June. We talked about
Yeah,
that.
when we did this, I think proclamation.
Or I'll let you explain.
You want to know what the holiday is or why we added it?
I thought that was just a proclamation for them.
Yeah, that was just a proclamation.
It wasn't within its one being born.
They made it a federal holiday. You guys gave us all a half day that day last year, and it was passed as a federal holiday.
Make a motion to accept this.
Second. Josh.
Eister,
Yes.
Karlovich,
Yes.
Reichner,
Yes.
Wiest,
Yes.
Brosious.
Yes. All right, Ocker, electric.
Right, I got received notification from Constellation Energy that our contract with them would be ending in November of this year. We were under a 4-year contract for electric utility. And we are participating them under the municipal agreement, a group of municipalities that purchase their electricity through them. And so I did have a vendor reach out to me, Key Energy Consulting, who went to several different companies to get the best pricing that they could find. So you'll see them compared side by side. The bottom line is that Constellation still provides the least expensive rate per kilowatt hour and then your choice is to do 12, 24, 36, 48, or 60 months. The last agreement was for 48 months. You'll see that 36 months is the lowest rate offered. And then it goes up slightly for the 48 and 60 months beyond that. I spoke to the representative from Constellation today. He said, of course, this is, kind of betting whether the rates are going to go up or down. How long do you want to commit for? He said between 36 and 48 months, that rate is about $36 a month more, give or take. And then if you went to 60 months, that's in that year, that final year, it's like $85, $90 a month more. I mean, you could go with the 36 months and then see what happens, but the rates could be much higher. And it could be lower, they could be higher. And then just as a matter of, it is an election year, so there's some volatility. He said these rates quoted are good until tomorrow. And then if we want to, continue to look at them, he'll have to readjust. You can take a look at the rates again, because they're changing very, very quickly.
We have till the 24th is when we have to decide this meeting.
Potentially, or you could wait and then see what the rates are.
You're talking about changing your electric.
Even if it's the same, you lock in the contract.
Yes.
It's a new contract.
You get the choice, you can choose whatever.
Then what
Still,
happens?
the rates are even less than what we have been paying. So you see that our current rate is 5.765 cents, 0.05765. That's our current rate. Then above that, you see that the rates being offered for the 12-month contract, 24, 36, 48, and 60.
They come down from what they are.
And then that bottom line is the projected term reduction over the entire term of the contract.
As long as natural gas comes on, the rate should be down. That's what this now.
You need to go down further.
And he says it does have to do with the fracking. So as fracking is supported or not supported, regulated, not regulated.
There's no question after the election, the country gets in there, fluctuate.
So that's where we take the risk and we'll just lock it in now and not have to worry about it.
I'd lock it in now, but Jim, like, I guess the question, how long you lock it? They said the minimum is 36 months, so.
No, you can do 12.
Oh, 12, I'm sorry, yeah.
You can-
12, a year, basically, 1 year at a time.
We haven't done this before.
Yes, this is the end of the
Yeah,
4-year contract.
yeah, there's contracts. We would have been ready 4 weeks ago.
So Jim,
I was talking to the county commissioners, and they gave me a number, but Sam was only estimating, it should be lower than this.
Where did they get their number from?
Well,
Was this, you said this is a company that goes out and searches all of them?
Yes, and they're consortium. This is through Pennsylvania Municipal League.
which we.
I just have just either just going to higher amounts of rate. When this is already lower than we're paying now. I just think we lock it in now, lock it in for 3 years and you got $1,000 a year. I'll make a motion to lock it for the 36 months.
Well, hold on 1 second. Jim, obviously being on council, you've read, how long, if you remember, how long did you guys only lock it in for? I mean, this one with
Well,
4
we're
years.
not locked in for 4 years.
I mean, I'm saying it's
That's why I said three.
true.
That's the lowest, because the four, you don't say as much.
Yeah, you go.
So then the point was from the vendor, of course, was you give yourself budget stability by
Yeah.
locking it in for however long. And that's why he said, so if you locked in for 4 years, that fourth year, you're paying about $35 a month more that year. You go on to the fifth year, you're paying about $85, $90 a month more that year. So it's just where do you wanna,
The advantage of going three is it gets us out of the election year cycle too. We're not having to worry about the clouds of the election year.
But on the other hand of it, you could benefit when the 4 years is up because if it's lower in theory during the election year, you lock yourself in for a lower rate too. But it doesn't matter, I mean, I know what you're saying either way. I mean, there's pros and cons either way.
I chose one that's the cheapest right
I
now. just
believe
$8,000
what Jim
bucks.
said, depending on who gets in, is what's going to continue with the gas. And, yeah, and whoever gets in, will bring term limits on budget.
Right, so I say we decide on something, it's just a matter of term.
I mean, I made motion 36.
I'll second that.
Brosious,
Yes.
Eister,
Yes.
Karlovich,
Yes.
Reichner,
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Why you still can?
The gas is cheap for us.
Right,
right, so at the last council meeting, the council had decided to create the police department construction project committee. And on that committee will be the mayor, Councilman Eister, treasurer Kevin Troop, chief mayor, myself, and then a representative from the community. We did advertise on Facebook, on our website, that we were accepting volunteers and that they needed to submit a letter of intent. We had some inquiry about the job. We had one person inquire about it. They wanted to have a written idea of what it would be. And so this is on the slide, is what you see here, is what we kind of came up with as the purpose for the committee and what their tasks would be. Basically, they review designs, construction bids, proposals, and quotes for other things, and they make recommendations to council, so they're not the decision authority. And they'll report on progress of the project. They're gonna monitor the budget execution and alert council if there might be a potential budget overrun. And the overall goal is to have a police station that is professional in appearance, efficient in use of space, effective in support of police operations and accreditation standards, and supportive of engagement with the community served. Mr. Thomas from MECTech Incorporated sent in his email that you should have there in front of you, talking about his experience. He's a graduate of Shipley High School, Penn State. He's a professional engineer.
It's,
Here.
So go ahead and discuss.
do you have that on the slide or no?
Is the letter of intent?
I don't think I do.
I mean, it was in that email.
They're the ones that are doing the sweep.
Mhm.
I mean, they have qualifications needed, they volunteer, they want their part of it. See what I would, be involved. It's a good question. We need to vote that person on.
Yes. I'll make a motion to accept Michael Thomas as this resident portion of the committee. Do I have a second?
Karlovich,
Yes.
Reichner,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Brosious,
Yes.
Eister.
Chris is a smart young man.
And just to give council a quick update, even though the committee hasn't met yet or kind of formed. Right now, they've just been doing some site work with Councilman Eister, with looking for sewage lines and stuff like that. They've been in the building a couple times, getting measurements and stuff like that, but just still doing some site measurements, preparing everything to go out for bid, like they said, sometime towards the end of the year, so.
I do think in the next couple of weeks, we should have a get together, Mr. Mayor, and the committee, really the prints, so everybody's aware of what's going on, where we stand.
That's a good question. What's a good time frame for the committee to first meet? Would you like to do it within the next, by the end of next week?
The first of the month is right around the corner here.
sometime mid-November, I would say at least. So it's, at least we have something to talk about at the second meeting in November.
Maybe in November, we'll have one.
Dylan, can you schedule that, please? Thank you.
What's your schedule like during the day, seriously? Now, Mike,
During the day, earliest at four p.m.
working, do you have nothing coming up with the days off, seriously? I don't know.
All holiday.
Yeah. Veterans Day.
Pardon?
Yeah.
Is a lot of time coming.
Veterans Day, the 11th. I don't have work.
I'm good. We can ask the.
Jody would be on
Oh.
No, I'm fine with it.
I trust you guys will figure something out.
Thank you, sir.
And just like this. All right, second reading, building construction.
Second reading for Bill 2020-17, building construction and occupancy. To repeal and replace from the current building construction code that was adopted in September of '91 and subsequent amendments. There have been no changes since the first reading.
Pass the second reading.
Second.
Reichner,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Brosious,
Yes.
Eister,
Yes.
Karlovich.
Yes. Joel, you still there?
It just disappeared.
Joe's gone.
Yeah, I saw his phone up there, it just dropped off.
Hey, are you still? All right, are you able to go online? All right. He will be with us momentarily.
I have a question though, just before we get into the full, we're going on to the military buyback portion. So do we know, so I read Joel's email and he sent us about, you know, what we can, can't do as far as like statutes and everything. And just before we get into the conversation, to just clear things up, Brad, you know, the very last one Joel said about he's not eligible to buy it back if he's currently receiving or is eligible to receive retirement benefits basically from somewhere else. So I'm reading that within military pay, he's already bought his time back, or he's already using that time in another.
I'm not aware that he's done that. He hasn't indicated that.
Okay. We have to know that for sure. We know that. We asked
No,
that.
yeah, I did.
You did ask that? You
Yeah.
said no. Okay. But at least, there's just one hurdle that was out of the way.
And that's pretty basic for all of them. If you're getting it for one, you can't jump back into another.
Yeah.
So once he buys it, then he can't buy it somewhere else.
When Joel comes back on. I'm
He's
gonna
back
ask-
on now.
Okay, Joel,
Yes,
the understanding that I got out of this, I talked to somebody, when it comes to military time, his option is to buy that time back at any time. Is that correct?
that's my understanding as well, Rick. Yes.
90 days is indifferent when it comes to military time. He can buy that back
That-
anytime up until the day.
That's correct. Although he has to earn it through the city before he can actually receive it. So if he's buying back 5 years, he has to work for the city for 5 years before he's entitled to have all that time back.
You know, imagine essentially.
Yeah.
For instance, for my regular job, I have to be employed at a minimum of 3 years, and then I have to be employed for each year that I'm trying to protect.
Correct.
We don't really have a process in our contract or within the union,
Yeah,
but that's
in
in
the
the
ordinance.
90.
The 90 days is written in the ordinance. That's what was written. in the-
Just the ordinance is what's incorrect at that time. It's not based off the new statute.
It's what the IRS put in back in 2009 when they put on. That's what was put in. Whether it's right or wrong or indifferent, I don't know. If it's wrong, then you can always change it later, but
He's eligible to do it, right?
correct.
And we already know what the salary is going to be for the next X amount of years with the contract.
Yeah, so he can buy back at that rate. Based off, because that's another question that Joel answered, that he
Doesn't
bases,
go like that.
No.
he bases what he pays off of what he
Yes,
makes.
that's not all what he's currently making, all what the position would have made back in that time frame he wanted to buy it.
Well, that's not how I read it. You never understand.
I thought it was
That's what.
the average of the current.
Yeah, I thought that's what he was going to make.
Joe,
And that
Yes,
was,
sir.
did you hear that?
I did not hear exactly what was said. I heard some of it.
The amount of money that he can buy back, is it from the original amount back whenever he was served in the military, or is it the now current what his salary is?
It's current now, but it's the average. You apply the average normal cost for the third class city regional pension plan, not to exceed 10% to the member's average annual rate over the first 3 years of municipal service. So you add that to his first 3 years' pay for the city. You multiply the result by the number of years, and that's how you come up with it. That's directly out of the statute, which I was referred back to by Conrad Siegel.
that's what they emailed me was asking what years he was buying back, and it had to go from what they made,
Right.
what position they would have been at that time of service.
Conrad Siegel does the numbers. They did the numbers back when a couple of guys back then did it. They do the numbers now. Whatever their numbers are is what the number's gonna be.
Doesn't he have to have
What-
5 years before he can buy the 5 year
No.
back with us?
We don't need to do anything.
Wait a second, I got a question. Joe, I got a question about the interest.
Sure.
I'm sorry.
Say sure, what's your question? Say your question.
Oh, Joel, the,
Yeah,
he pays 5% of whatever his gross is.
right.
Then I was reading on PMRS, and I know they're not PMRS. Then he figured the percentage at that time on top of that,
That's correct.
okay? Brad, you take your retirement, can you count overtime?
No, there's only, let me rephrase that. There's 3 of us that can accumulate up to $10,000 in overtime, and that's it. Nobody else can use overtime to calculate your pension.
Okay,
Okay. Yep, we put that. And
okay,
so
so,
technically though, I don't think you as council have to do anything.
Well, the reason you're voting on it is because in the ordinance as it reads in the third class city, or not third class city, but the city ordinance, is because the 90 days was up, but he was actively trying to get those numbers. It's nobody's one fault. It was a change of administration between everybody. Nobody's ever dealt with it until now.
But what I'm saying is there shouldn't even be a 90 days to begin with.
Correct. And we talked about that needs to be changed at a
So
later
that
time.
he would just,
We'd have to amend our ordinance.
yeah, and if we just do that, then he can buy it back whenever. So that's what I'm saying, if we wait until we amend the ordinance, we don't have to do anything now. Once we amend the ordinance, we get the exact numbers from Conrad Siegel, the city doesn't get involved in the number process at all, and then we move on.
but I think Joel should at this time, because this is critical to our pension, draft the exact procedures we're gonna follow in the future.
Or just refer to the statute. I assume that's what Joel.
That's what Joel said before, Council Minister. He said
Well,
about
well, let's,
third class city, not the
Yeah, I
suburb.
read some of that.
Yeah.
Well, I read the third class city, what they said.
just to answer that, I can easily draft exactly what our process would be, because it's directly in the statute that says this is what it has to be. And I got there with help from Conrad Siegel, who suggested to Joe Lynn that we go to the statute to see how the process happens. So Conrad Siegel is absolutely following the statutory process, which everybody is required to do. And just so we're clear, we're not picking, I don't think it matters what years he served in the military, okay? It matters for the purposes of Conrad Siegel to say, these are the 5 years we're using. But when figuring out how much it's going to cost to purchase back those years, they use his first 3 years of compensation with the city to figure that out. So they're going to take his annual salary, not including overtime, for the first 3 years with the city, and then multiply that with a number of years and a fractional part of the non-intervening military service at an interest rate of 4 3/4 compounded annually, which is a whole mouthful, but basically it's already set out right in the statute. But I think that it makes sense if we're going to go in and change the police pension ordinance, the Sunbury Police Pension Ordinance, that it would be very simple to insert the statutory language there, or to simply say shall be calculated in the manner as set forth in, I think it's 53 PS 707, which is the statute.
And Joe, for this, it's just the council right now because our ordinance is the 90-day portion. We're not doing the numbers. Conrad Siegel will be finalizing the numbers that actually.
Absolutely. One, Conrad Siegel, to be clear, they cannot even figure this out until an officer has been employed with the city for 3 years. So they can't even begin to figure out what the cost is going to be until they have an average of his first 3 years annual salary. Once they have that average, they take it times the necessary information and use a coefficient to figure out exactly how much it's going to cost for him to buy back his time. And that's how that works. I mean, like I said, it's right in the statute, and they said they use the statutory process at Conrad Siegel, which in all honesty, they have to. There's no question.
So does he have to wait to match his years, or can we use the contract language because it's the salaries in there?
We don't have to wait 3 years to approve it, but Conrad Siegel can't actually figure it out until he's been here for 3 years.
So Joel,
We can approve it now.
Yeah, approve it.
I'm sorry.
3 years, buys his time.
I'm sorry, Jim. I missed what you said.
I'm sorry, Joe. I said if we approve it tonight, and then in 3 years, the actuary will be done on it, and that's the dollar value.
You got it. It's 3 years from when he started, not 3 years from tonight. It's his first 3 years of annual salary. So 3 years from when he started.
When we rewrite the ordinance basically to follow the statute, we won't even have to approve these anymore, right? They'll just be able to do it because that's what the statute says. We won't have to come before council at any time, correct?
Chris, the only thing I hesitate to tell you how easy it may be to change that ordinance, only because I'm not positive. I wasn't involved in creating the ordinance, obviously. I'm not sure if that has to meet with union approval to change it. Okay? Now, I don't think we'd have any problem with that, but it may be somewhat of a lengthy process time-wise to get it done. So I don't want anybody to think this is going to happen for the next meeting, for example, that the ordinance can be changed. It's going to take me a little while to figure out if we need union approval from the police union in order to change the police pension fund ordinance.
But I also don't think it really matters because he's looking to buy, what, 5 years? And he has to work here 5 years to be able to buy the full 5. Great. He's working 3.
Right.
2, 1.
He's working on the second year.
Yeah.
He's one of and the thing is with the salaries, the way we build it in the contract, we know what his average compensation is right now. We know what it is right now.
He wouldn't be able to buy it until the end of his 3rd year.
If that's what Conrad Siegel's saying, yes.
So we can just wait until the ordinance is done and then.
Yes, sir.
If that's a statute, why would that not override a union?
It does. Am I right, Joel?
It does, Rick. Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying, and it does. That's why I said I don't think it'll be an issue. It just would need to happen, okay? So if we change the ordinance, which I know we can do, I just think it may need union approval because it directly affects them. There's another statute that deals with it. Although they can't refuse to approve it because it comes directly out of the statute. Okay. So I don't think it's a problem. I just said it may not happen overnight. That's all.
And the other thing, just so, and I think this is important also. Mr. Tamborelli can buy back that time when he chooses to.
That's correct.
It could be the last day he works, correct?
That's correct. In fact, Rick, I don't know how many people are aware of this, but about 1:30 this afternoon, I sent out an email to council basically setting forth exactly what you're saying, that I don't think the 90-day limit is even, enforceable.
And I don't know if it's because it's a military pension that works this way or what it is, but the gentleman from the state that I talked to said that he could wait until he retired, make a payment, and then let them take the rest out of his retirement.
That's absolutely true.
So he wouldn't actually have to pay anything but one payment that he would have out of pocket. He could just finalize everything when he retired.
Well, yeah, they either going to, in the statute, I believe they take it out of his paycheck. However, I think what you're saying is instead of taking it out of his paycheck, they would take it out of his actual retirement benefit to pay back before he gets a full retirement benefit.
That's exactly
All
right.
right, so I'm gonna make a motion to table this, knowing that he can collect this at any time, and for us to update our information with the state's law.
Reichner,
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Brosious,
Yes.
Eister,
Yes.
Karlovich.
Yes. All right. Councilman Reese?
You want to talk about the administrator?
Yeah, basically just wanted to check in. I see that you guys put in this expectations and process. Basically just want to check in where we're at in the administrative process. And I know that there's been some applications. I know we have it open until, what's the date we said, like November 11th or something like that. But if we have applications that are in, to start the interview process, so that way if these people are taking other interviews or out looking at other positions, we aren't losing them because we're waiting a whole month from when they apply just to reach out to them, other than getting all the info. And there's some qualified candidates for sure that we've already gotten. So just trying to see where you guys think you're at and if we're ready to start the first round of interviews on this. I would say so.
But we need to decide how are we going to be doing the interviews. Are we interviewing every single candidate, or are we going to say, hey, we have 3 out of the X amount of qualifications there?
The way we did it before is everyone on council got to look over all of the applications. And if one person wanted to interview that person, we interviewed that person. And if no one wanted to interview them, then they weren't on the list to be interviewed. Because that's how we did it last time, we thought that was fair. So that way anybody that applied, everyone on council got to see it. And this work, I mean, this is a good system here because you can go right off the qualifications and know who's worth interviewing and who may not be at the first round.
Is this all we get for an application right here? I mean, I don't know if
No,
is there more of it?
if you want to review the applications are at the city clerk's office, but they just can't leave the city clerk's
No,
office.
that's fine.
Yeah. So at least that's how we did it before. We all went in, everyone looked at them, we wrote down a list of anyone that wanted to do interviews. And then we set up like 2 or 3 nights that we came in for interviews and either did them in person or by phone if they were too far away. Because I know when I first looked over, some of them was pretty far away. We did some phone interviews, which were fine too. So I would think to start as soon as later would make sense. Maybe to do one the first week of November, see what applications come in, and then do not the first week, but the second week of November. And then when the final group is in, those first ones are already scheduled, and then any others that come in, we can schedule those for another time. That makes sense. When you schedule them
So you
now,
want to start scheduling them to begin interviewing the second week of November.
I would start calling them now to schedule them, so that way we can have time to set up the calendar schedule, so it's not saying, hey, everyone come in this week or, right away, but then look at their availability and schedule them out. That makes sense. Pick a day or two that we all can be here and then try and fit them into those At least, again, that's how we did it before, and I thought it worked. I thought it worked well, unless you guys had any different ways that you'd like to do it. But I just want to make sure that we're not losing anybody that's really qualified, that's just sitting there waiting for us, and they take another interview, they take another job when they would have been qualified
But
for us.
we don't know. I have no worries for that.
What's that?
I have no worries for that. We have a very good list of candidates.
But it's also a very competitive job market right now. I mean, there's a lot of places that are hiring.
So does the board want us to begin interviewing the second week of November?
So yeah, the week of the 9th, how was that, 2 weeks from today? Starting that week.
So when do you want the list by?
Probably want it by the end of this week, so that way they have all next week's schedule.
So you're talking about beginning the interviews will consist of the week of November 9th.
Pick a day or two, we can have it blocked
Fit as
out.
many candidates in as possible.
Yeah, at least that's what we did before, and that's worked out. And if someone really couldn't fit into those times,
All right, so let's put a timetable on them instead of letting them go as long as they want. You want to just allot an hour for each candidate.
that's what we did before. Yeah.
So an hour for each candidate. We'll get you a list by the end of this week. Is there any opposing for that process on the board? No? Okay.
And then we redo it again at the end of the process, right, but it's a lot since then, from the end of this week on.
From the
beginning,
beginning,
yeah, yes. So, yeah, fair shot.
And keep updating with the list that you created out.
Yeah, we're great, this is nice. This is your office. This is good, thank you.
All right, we're good with that. Are we good?
I'm good, thank you.
All right, STEM program.
Yep, just want to give you an update on where we are with the stamp program. I know that the team, management partners team has interviewed everybody almost in this room. So that's the timeline that I have up there on the slide. They are interviewing a few more people this week, employees, and then they will analyze their opportunities for improvement incorporated into a financial model. They're going to review that, all of that, and then they're going to review that with us. But the final support report, they plan to have the end of the beginning of December.
Jody, did you talk to them about the phone system? Is that eligible under that program?
I have not specifically talked to them about that yet, because they're not at the part for discussing what their recommendations are going to be. I'm also going to bring in Mr. Carpenter from DCED, and so that he can also help give us guidance on what recommendations that they can make that would be eligible for that kind of funding. But the telephone system is part of that discussion, of course. Okay, next I'm going to give you an update on the codification. So the editorial legal analysis, I sent Joel the final draft about a week ago, and he's looked that over. We're down to a few final remaining questions or ordinances to be adopted. So the editorial legal analysis, all the questions have been answered except for a couple. And I would like to schedule a work session. And you will all be amenable to maybe next Monday evening. We'll have a work session. We'll go through the whole document, and I'll provide you. I have made a notebook with the answers all done up and the spreadsheet of all the minor changes. So there's a spreadsheet where, similar to what I showed you earlier at the work session, where I had the existing paragraph and then just a few wording changes. And so I have a spreadsheet like that for all the minor changes. And then the major revisions, this is where we are. What's in green has already been adopted and it's ready to go in with the codification process. We just adopted the building construction ordinance this evening, so that goes green. And then these are the other ordinances that have been adopted that will go into the codification. And these are new ordinances that were adopted that will need to go into codification. I've already contacted the editor to get an estimate because there's a point in time in which our existing code, for all intents and purposes, is frozen, and so any updates, any revisions are included in the codification. But if it's a new, brand new ordinance, it will have to be codified and then put into our city code. It'll all go into the final draft though. So you see there, everything is in the green except for the special events, and we'll keep working that one. At the work session, I want to talk about some other of the chapters in our code that may need revisions, but I don't think that you're going to want to wait any longer to get this submitted and get the final draft written. These are the next steps in the process. So at the work session, we're going to do some of this completeness check and have your opportunity to do the final review of the whole package. Then all materials go to general code for preparation of the draft. And as I have already sent them the ordinances that have already been adopted. The draft then marks the completion of their editorial work. Any additional revisions would incur additional charge. So once they start working on the final, that's it. Then there's a review of the final draft, and then there's the council authorizes publication, and then general code will provide the city with the ordinance to adopt the new code. And then all of those changes are adopted by that one ordinance. Any questions?
And what was the date you want to have this meeting?
November 2nd, which is a week from today.
Mr. Mayor, can you make it at 4, please? Okay. Thank you. Before we get it done, get it.
Okay. This is the grant writer's report. Try to put into a very concise table the number of applications that have been completed and the amount of money total. So you see for the city, he submitted 8 applications in the total amount of $2 million. He's working currently on 17. And then there's 2 that are pending. That's the H2OPA and the small water and sewer that haven't opened yet. For the fire department, completed 3 in the amount of $15,000, working on 2 additional. Fire police done 3 in the amount of $7,500. Still working with SRI to discuss their priorities and putting in applications on their behalf. And sometimes he's got some applications that are for a city project, but the SRI is the grant sponsor. He's meeting with me monthly to discuss the projects, review application guidelines, coordinate the application documents, and then he's going to be sending me anything that's going to the state, like to DCED. I'm going to want to review those before he actually submits them the final draft. But I've also provided you with a spreadsheet in your packets that he sent to me today. If this is a better way for you to see what's going on. So on that spreadsheet, he lists the prospect is the grant source, grant prospects. What type of organization it is, and listing contacts, and the funding categories is he plans to submit kind of project. The submission date and then the submitted amount.
Have we heard back from any of these again? Like, out of how many of these are the applications or the grants actually closed now? And the people who would have received it would have been notified?
None of them have come back and have notified awardees yet.
And on the front end of it, are you guys like preparing all the documentation and you guys, you just submit it to him and he sends it out to these different grant places, or like, is he preparing the documentation to send out, or what's going on there with that part? Because like,
So-
if you guys are doing the majority of the work, he's just submitting it,
Mhm.
it sounds pretty easy on his end. If you guys are doing all the, like 95% of the work, and you're just using the last 5.
So it's kind of a mixture right now. When he submits to some of the private grants, corporate grants, he's doing them all on his own. He gets a description of the project, he works with the fire department or us, I should say,
Right,
our
okay,
suite,
yeah.
to get the description of the project, and cost estimate from our engineers or whatever, and then he puts that grant together. For the government grants, doing a lot more, because he hasn't done municipal organizations before, he hasn't been the grant writer for municipal organizations before. There's a bit of a learning curve to that, and we're helping get the documents that he needs, like he works with Lee Ziegler, does the design and all that. A lot of times he sends it to me, and then I send it on to him. And then I've given him examples of the same grant that I had put in the past, so he's putting it together.
So is he coming across grants that we would never be able to find? Or does he just have a long list of places that, okay, this, for example, like police department, they'll apply to these different grants. Does he have access to something that we don't have access to, that we can't see? Just for example, just say you, like, if you were doing the grant, you won't be able to see it because he has special access?
No.
So we
But
have.
he has researched hundreds of grants and found the ones that would be applicable. And that's the part that I don't have time to do.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I just wanna-
People haven't had, so all those ones that are listed as corporate are mainly ones that he has found. Now, not that we wouldn't know about them.
Yeah.
Well, there is software that you have to either pay for or go replace that we don't have access to within the city, unless you guys were gonna go to, I think he goes to a.
Yeah, there's a
library.
database.
Yeah.
And he has
that we don't-
there's a subscription to that database.
Yeah.
To be able to search it.
It's still early. Still don't know what's gonna come.
I mean, do we have a number set in our minds, like, all right, I mean, we're paying this guy, let's say $15,000, like, we're expected to get X amount of dollars. If we don't get X amount of dollars, maybe we should look somewhere else, because if we're not getting anything in return for what we're paying for, you know, like the service, I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, I know it's early yet, but.
This also has been a weird year because a lot of them, and he has a couple on here, a lot of the funding sources that would typically accept grants are only accepted COVID relief.
Yeah,
grants.
so I know it's a straight.
So I don't know, yeah, I agree with you, we've had them since February, and it becomes a frustration of, hey, there's no money coming in. But I also see $830,000 worth of potential police department applications on here that I don't know that we would have had.
Yeah.
So I don't know, if we start landing them, we're great, but if we're paid for, we might as well finish. it out.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree with that.
And then evaluate it.
Number 15,000, I never paid 1,000.
But I thought we had to pay like a $3,000 upfront fee.
That wasn't in addition to, that's like first month, last month.
Oh, okay, that's where I got confused.
Can you have them add another line on here for the date that these grants close? So we're not just looking at this, assuming they're just open and floating out there in the world?
He's got a column, it's called expected response date. I think that's it, but
But there's
he doesn't
nothing-
have any, I understand that, let me finish my sentence. I'll ask him to fill those in.
Sounds good. So we're at 33. On that 9 actually.
But
So you're just saying, like, you wanna have on there, like, it opens this date and closes this date, so you know, okay, we should be hearing back by, whatever.
Some of this could already close.
Yeah, so that's what you're saying, like, how.
Maybe half of these close back and forth. They close, and then sometimes there's months before they announce.
You know, I understand that, but
So do
we
you wanna
should
know,
have
do
those
you
things on
wanna know the close date and the projected announcement
Yes,
date?
I think both should be on.
Okay.
Announcements. All right, the following boards are open for appointment, reappointment. The Civil Service Board, a 3-year term, has 1 vacancy. The Housing Authority is a 5-year term at 1 vacancy. The Redevelopment Authority has a 5-year term for 2 vacancies. The Planning Commission, 4-year term, 1 vacancy. Municipal Authority, 5-year term, 1 vacancy. The Harbor Board, 4-year term, 1 vacancy. The Recreational Board, 4-year term, 1 vacancy, 1-year term, 5 vacancies. All interested candidates must submit a letter of interest to the city clerk's office by December 3rd at 4 p.m. to be considered for the positions.
Just here, ask you to send out a postcard or a letter stating, reading to these folks that their term is.
Yeah, so the office did mail a letter to them, letting them know that it was up and that they would have to send a letter of interest if they still wanted to be part of it.
Thank you.
What's this? It says reappointments here.
Just the people that got the letter that you just talked about.
Okay, so they didn't say yes. Okay.
They're who?
That's who's there, but in order for me to make a recommendation to council to approve it, they need, if they're interested, they need to send out their interest instead of just saying, yeah, I'll do it. All right. The next Heart and Heritage 250th anniversary meeting is November 5th at 6 p.m. The next council meeting is November 9th at 6:15 p.m. via Zoom or Facebook Live. Is there any public audience comment at this time on Zoom or Facebook Live?
I have.
All right, Alex.
Anything when third and market will be open. Our parents' business is open now and it's our front entrance to hotel and bar.
Wait, say that again?
They want to know when Third Market's gonna open back up again without picnic tables and stuff.
They were closed for the dining. Should be open now. Outside dining still,
They're open when they're shut down, then they.
but I think that question's saying that the place next to it's back open now.
Anything when third and
Yeah.
market will be open.
Yeah, the Stanley's, I think. is
What
back
was
open.
the rest of the comment?
My parents' business is open now and here's our front entrance. I'm assuming the main street maybe.
No, there's a couple new, there's a new business in that one.
Wait, is that, who made that comment?
That was Elmer Daniel.
Yeah.
Stanley's is back open now. So they won't, right now, the tables are blocking the parking that are right in front of it. They're there.
I thought all the tables were moved out.
Tables
were all sitting down by waiting.
Yeah, they're not, it's not, but it's blocked off in front of Third and
The street's
Woodlawn.
still closed, isn't it?
No, the street only closes
When they're,
Waiting's is open.
I think that's what
That's
he's
it,
saying.
it's Stanley's opening hours too.
Yeah, it's there, Stanley's is open, too, and they want to keep open. Because, I mean, outside dining is probably almost,
It's probably gonna end now.
All along the likely winter months.
yeah. I mean, that's.
All right, so street department, when do you think you can reopen Third?
I don't know, I'm not passing the buck off, but I didn't close the streets, I'm gonna direct that one to Jody.
Open it up now.
Yeah.
So Steve, so when do you think you'll be able to get the picnic tables or at least the street?
We'll get it open this week.
All right, by the end of this week, all that stuff will be out there.
All right, any other audience comments?
Yes. So there was a letter from Carol Hoffman regarding the condition of the sidewalks in town. Then the difficulty with ADA accessibility, condition of the sidewalks and the crossings. And specifically, she's talking about motorists not respecting pedestrians right of way. She's also talking about some places where she would like to have seen crosswalks across Chestnut Street at Front Street, across Chestnut Street at South River Avenue.
Look into these, because a lot of them are on state roads.
Would you like me to rep that?
Yeah, go ahead, Steve, I'm sorry.
Ones on Chestnut Street, we denied them. When Chestnut Street was redone, it was deemed that it was too close to Front Street, the traffic coming off Front Street, coming down there to North River, when they can just come down to Second Street, where they have a traffic signal cross. So it was deemed by myself and the engineers that
It was unsafe to put one there for a crosswalk.
Put a crosswalk back in here.
Okay.
Even though the crosswalks have been there for decades without incident that I recall.
There wasn't, it was getting that.
Yeah, we,
That chestnut in front.
Pretty sure, wasn't there? It
was just in front of town,
goes down further.
but I think it's what she's talking about.
Wait, where, she doesn't have Chestnut in front of here.
No,
Chestnut, there.
North River and Chestnut.
Yeah. She's in front, they're still there.
Yeah.
South River.
They're faded. South River, yeah.
The other thing, Jamie Shrawder, so here's that home grant, is that still available? I remember that was on when I first came with council, that residents could apply for some matching funds to do things like sidewalks and things like that. I don't remember that coming up for conversation at all recently.
We just voted on the new.
Did we? Okay, maybe I missed that. How do we advertise that to the public? We just put a letter in the paper and we put it outside the doors. That's all we do.
Yeah, the public announcements.
Be nice maybe do like a public workshop or something, just to get people to be able to come in and actually hear questions about
Explain how the program works.
exactly, hey, could I qualify for this, especially in the year that they want to do those projects. Because I mean, I remember sidewalks where people have used them in the past, and you have to be a certain income level, and you have to live in the home for so long. Yeah, maybe something to look at, just to do, when does that close?
2023.
Maybe we're doing.
Or how's the application process for that building? Or is that like open enrollment like throughout the year? Or is there?
They call us and we send out the application to them, and then once they fill it out, goes directly to SEDA-COG and then they take care of the
They can
rest.
apply it for all year round.
Do we have any information on the website regarding the program?
Have a pamphlet? I don't think so.
All right.
I can do it.
I mean, something to look at, because I mean, that directly responds to her question. I'm sure we can post something maybe at like the Albright Center in the basement, which one for social distancing and all that kind of stuff. Look into that.
All right, next audience comment.
Condition of the municipal building, actually we got 2 letters, from tenants. And, they're concerned about the look of the rear entrance and the paint, the window glazing coming out. And then they're also concerned about interior paint, scuffs and dings. And, they'd like to see some improvements done to improve the appearance.
Where do you want it?
And then, at the event over the weekend on Saturday, was approached by people, complaining about the weeds inside the monument area. And also, pointed out that there's maybe a structure problem with the monument, so they wanted me to pass that along.
Where do you want it?
Okay,
The one by the.
Jim,
oh,
Oh,
the
Yeah.
pushing of the slates, actually.
Is that?
Gentleman out of Beaver Town.
okay. And then, sorry, there was one more call right before the meeting, shortly before the meeting, and that was, Lindy Lloyd was asking about keeping the corn stalks up in that, area there around the top of Cameron Park. So that kids can continue to enjoy it, but it would be unattended, and so I'm not sure that that's a good idea.
No, I would make a recommendation to council to take it down or have them take it down.
it's on their liability.
Yeah.
They put it in there and they will probably take it.
Take it down. Have them take it down.
Yeah, take it down.
Okay.
Any other audience comments? Anything online, Toby?
Nope, does not appear to be.
All right, thank you all for coming out tonight. This meeting is now adjourned.